Hey everybody, how you doing? I'm going to chat to you about chip strategies. So I've been quite quiet, I guess, about this, and the reason for that is I'm somebody that believes quite firmly that you can't really have a strategy, and I talked about this in a previous piece. You can't really have a strategy without having all the information and without all the data and all the facts. So in this case, our case is the fixtures, and as we are now, I think it's only a matter of time before we find out exactly what certainly the first round of rearranged double game week fixtures are going to look like. So with that in mind, I have done some prep and some work looking into what I believe is a decent chip strategy. I know it's tricky because I know some people have all the chips left, like myself. Some people don't have them all. So I think there's a few pointers that I do want to say on this. First one I've already made, which is you can't really have a great strategy unless you've got all the data, so don't panic. Play what's in front of you, look at the fixtures that are coming up. Don't get too overexcited with the double game weeks. Sometimes it can be really hard to predict, and you've got things like rotation, etc. And the second thing I'd say is there is no definitive answer to what is the best chip strategy. And one of the things that going back to, if you remember masterclass tutorial number 1, one of the first things I ever said to you guys was read the rules. So I've just sort of refreshed and got them clear in my memory, in my mind, what the rules are around chips. So the opening line in the FPL rules section, chips can be used to potentially enhance a team's performance during the season. Now there's a key word in there for me, and to execute your chips right, what you need to do is get rid of that word potentially and turn that potential into reality. So when you're looking at your strategy, the answer is quite simple. You just need to make sure you're getting a benefit from using those chips and they're giving you a positive points return, not a negative. And when I say that, I don't mean as in minus, I just mean that you're utilising them as best you can to get the highest possible return. And if that's something you've achieved, then you've nailed it. You've got your chip strategy right. Yes, you can always hope for more points, but that is, in its simplest term, really stripping everything back and keeping it really simple. That is what the chips are there to do, and that's what you have to plan for. So with that in mind, there is no one-size-fits-all approach to getting this the right way or the wrong way around. The only way we will ever find that out is looking back at the very end of the season and using good old hindsight and saying, oh, had I done that here or done that there, I'd have got more points. Well, you can't play FPL like that. It doesn't work like that. I wish it did. You've got to just have a logical reason and a well thought out plan and a well thought out strategy for playing the game in a certain way. So another thing I noticed that that is worth refreshing, you can only use one chip per week, so most people will know that already. And interestingly, on a wild card and on a free hit, you lose any saved transfers. So that therefore, if you perhaps don't have many chips left, that perhaps adds some weight to using the wild card earlier. And I talked about this in a recent YouTube video, and that's because you've still got maybe 6 to 10 game weeks left, depending at which point you play it. So you can still tinker with your team, you can still accumulate transfers, so you can make 2 transfers in a week, and as we know, that can be quite effective. At the same time, what you don't want to be doing is having 2 transfers, planning on playing a wildcard and losing a transfer, because those transfers are so valuable. They become more valuable the closer towards the end of the season we go, because of course a -4 is a lot more painful, with less game weeks remaining to claw back the deficit in the points that you've spent. So I think that needs to be factored into your planning. Don't go losing transfers. So in terms of like the order in which I think you play them, like I said, there's no one size fits all, but what I have looked at is that I don't think there's any point doing anything in game week 31. I think that whole game week lacks quality to actually use a chip. So you've got, I think if you get 3 Liverpool players into your team, even if you don't have a full 11, I think that should probably be just about enough to cover it. They've got Fulham, of course, in that game week. Game week 32 looks very likely that we'll have some doubles there. So I think you need to be careful, like I said, not to lose a transfer. That to me looks like possibly a good week where you might want to do a free hit, where you bulk up your team to bring in some of the players that do have a double game week, and then you'll benefit there. And then it looks very likely in game week 33, this is the FA Cup semi weekend. We're definitely going to lose Wolves and Man United because coincidentally they play each other in the cup and as well as the league. And I would expect us to lose Man City. I expect them to win against Swansea. There's a very good chance we'll lose Spurs because you'd expect Brighton as the stronger team to progress against Millwall, and then we might lose Watford and they're playing Newcastle, or we might lose Crystal Palace and they're playing Fulham. So again, I actually think that a lot of those players, if you look at Man City, Brighton and Spurs, will have probably by then jettisoned their players back in game week 31 because they don't have a game. So they don't have a game in 31 or a game in 33. So there's a very good chance that by that point would have probably cashed in on those players anyway. So again, I think that's manageable. I don't think there's a chip needed, certainly not the free hit or the wild card needed for that week. It looks to me, again, take this with a pinch of salt because we don't know the fixtures exactly. It would then make sense to probably put your team back together for game week 34 because it's probably had a few people in and out, and there's probably players like the City and Spurs guys that you'll want back. And then maybe look at the bench boost or the triple captain for one of the remaining double game weeks. Now, a lot of the stuff I've seen bouncing around on social media and stuff forecast there'll probably be only one double game week after that. Now, I said again in a previous video, it would not surprise me if there's more than one. And I actually think that going back to the very first masterclass tutorial, when we talked about it's a marathon, not a sprint, you've got to have a sprint finish in FPL, and historically, holding on to the second wildcard has often allowed people to do that. But now with all the other chips and stuff, of course, that's factored in as well. So I thought, why not hold a chip back until maybe the very last game week of the season or the penultimate one or something like that? I mean, if you think, I was looking at some of the fixtures, Liverpool are at home to Wolves in the last game week, Man City play Leicester in the second to last game week, Spurs have a good home game, I can't remember who, it might be Brighton I think. So imagine if they're playing to win the league, they've got to win that match to win the league, and you've got Kane or Aguero or Salah and you've got the triple captain. That's almost guaranteed to catapult you up the rankings and give you that real kick to the sprint finish. So again, as we are now in, what are we, game week 27, it feels like way off, backs up my argument. I don't think you can have a concrete strategy from here to now, but what you can have is maybe a plan a bit like I have here, which is fluid, but is receptive to the idea of, if a double game week lands and we haven't planned for it, I've got a chip up my sleeve ready to go. But likewise, I'm not going to waste the chip. I'm going to make sure I follow what is written in paragraph 1, line 1 of the rules about chips. I'm going to use it to potentially, get rid of the word potentially, I'm going to use it to enhance my team's performance. Keep it simple, remember that, and I think you'll get a really good result from it. So I hope that is useful. There's my thoughts. Fingers crossed we hear about these double game weeks soon, and then the exciting planning can really begin. This is my notebook that I bought the other day that I've already started filling in with loads of different notes about things towards the end of the season. Handy to get one just to jot down ideas throughout the week. Thanks guys for your support, really does mean a lot to me, really enjoying this project. I hope you're getting value out of it and use out of it. Funnily, I know a lot of you are probably ahead of me in the overall ranking, so I guess it's working, right? And you guys are getting better at FPL, which is great. So thanks for your support and have a great weekend. Cheers guys.